Fade in on the Knight Rider narrating himself into existence. Okay, good. I have audio. Hello. Welcome to the Knight Rider. I think this is episode 6. Last week, I think I got it wrong. I can't count. I use calculators to count. Welcome. I'm Eppidiah Ravishaw. I am a indie tabletop role-playing game designer. I feel like I should introduce myself at the beginning of these now. In case you're not familiar with me or my work. And what I'm doing here is I'm attempting to design a role-playing game live, doing most of the work in single-hour chunks once a week on a Tuesday night. So here we are. Yes. All right. So yeah, if the last episode was episode 5, then this is episode 6. I said that I was going to try and find some way to get the chat on the screen, and then I didn't do that. Get used to that kind of disappointment here. Anyways, let's talk about this role-playing game that we're trying to design. The concept, which you maybe, if you've been here for all 6 episodes, you're probably sick of hearing about. But we have someone, this is their first time. But the concept here is we've invented a imaginary toy line from the late 70s called the Incredible Interchangeable Intergalaxians. And the idea here was that these toys would be, if you're familiar with the muscle toys, okay, I feel like I'm covering a lot of ground that I've already covered. Well, I am. This is a recap. The idea is that these were little plastic toys. Again, they'd never existed, but they were little plastic toys with arms that can come off. Left arm, right arm can come off. Their head can come off, and their lower torso can come off. So they're from the hips down, and they could be replaced with other parts. The story that comes with the toy is very sparse and very small. Like they're the incredible interchangeable intergalaxians. They don't really say much about them, but they're accompanied by an imaginary comic book from the early 80s that tells the story of them being these warriors, these space-bound warriors who were stuck in we had a good name for them last time, I think. Some sort of space torpedo, and shot at other ships. But in space, over great distances, they would hit those ships, break out of their torpedo, tear apart the hull, and take over the ship. But it was a kid's comic, so it wasn't as terrifying or as gruesome as that sounds. And then what happens is the torpedoes miss from time to time, as happens, and they just travel off into the void for thousands and thousands of years. And the story that we're going to play, and the story that takes place in the comic, is in that future, after the civilizations that gave rise to the Intergalaxians have long since died away. And these are the remains of them. These somewhat immortal. They're immortal. They can't die, but they can be pulled apart. Space warriors that have been floating in space for millennia until they crash into a planet or another ship, and then trying to find each other. Maybe some of them have existed for a while. We've decided last time that you could be like a head of one who was trying to reassemble your body, or you could be a torso that's trying to put all of it together. All right, so I feel like this gets us kind of up to date. Like I said, we also have like a few other things. We have the 80s comic, and then in the mid 80s there's a short run Saturday morning cartoon which creates a whole nother slightly different a little bit more formulaic canon story to it. And then in the 90s there was the comic I, which stands for Intergalaxian, but they didn't want to use the word intergalaxing because they thought it sounded dumb. And it's this edgy reboot of it. I will make fun of this edgy reboot that, again, never existed throughout. And then in the early aughts, because so many of these toys were reproduced by just injecting new colors into the same mold. They were like, each part was all one color. They'd be like very bright colors, very pastel colors. So there was a pastel 90s remake that obviously made a bunch of the more conservative audiences uncomfortable about what that said about their childhood, and they can just sit with that. I don't care. And now I've got the license to this toy line and all these comics that don't exist. I got the license to write the tabletop role-playing game. So that's what we're doing. And probably that was the majority of what we did in the first 5 episodes, is come up with what I just went over there. I'm going to take a look at chat for a moment. Designing live is hard enough, not a disappointment in any way. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And then there's a demand of a refund because of the disappointment. Well, again, I mean, you can have that money. Oh, hello, Audrey. Strangely cathartic. Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I have to say, and I'm really enjoying having this. I went into this, I had done no work since last time on any of this because I had other things to deal with. And I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't do this tonight. But no, this is fun. This is the time when I get to enjoy game design, not as a thing that I have to do in order to eat, but a thing that I'm doing because I'm enjoying it with you. You can't eat game design. You can quote me on that. So, I don't know what we're doing tonight. Let's check out. What's happening here? There we go. We were doing some things. Where were we? We've got the history. I went over that. I'm going to try and do something so I can keep most of this stuff above where my head is on all this. We went over there. Oh, yeah. Last time, a few times ago, I did a previously on to explain what was going on. We had come up with some mechanics that I'm kind of abandoning at this point. I still don't have anything that kind of really hooked me into how it's going to play yet. That's the universal symbol for hooking a game designer. Let's see here. Yes, so it was really important to me last time to work out how these toys physically interacted with each other, how they snap together. I don't know why that is. It shouldn't really matter, but maybe it will. One of the things that we hit on, and one of the things that I think really is drawing me into this, is that the characters will be presented like, I don't know if we're going to use like a deck of cards to represent each of the different limbs and the different body parts or whatever that they get to put together, or if it's going to be, we can go classic mid-aughts, just get out a bunch of note cards and have people write up a bunch of interchangeable parts before you start the game. I mean, like, certainly that would be fun, right? If you had some rules for making interchangeable parts and then as a group you made up like a whole bunch of them. Well, it's worth exploring. Or you know, maybe it's a table of things you roll on for each. You know, you get an arm, you can randomly roll up the arm's history, the arm's capabilities, that kind of thing. But the idea was that you're kind of a sum of your parts, right? Your right arm and left arm come with here, intergalactic. Put that all on the page there. Post-its might be cool. Yeah. Post-its might be cool. I like doing puzzle pieces, like big puzzle pieces with the things on it that you can lock together would be kind of fun too. It would be certainly easier to produce those than it would be to make the actual toy line, which I have no intention to do. But or it's easy to put a puzzle piece in a PDF and have people cut them out and assemble them how they want. Does this fit? What do we have here? We have a head. We have a torso. The head on top and the lower body. That's 6, right? Am I counting that right? Head, torso, right, left, lower body. No, it's 5. Why was I counting that? Well, anyways. I mean, 6 is kind of... Well, 5 would work too. So, okay, the thought that I just had was that, like... I'm trying to fully form it before I say anything about it. Right. Let's say you have a 6-sided die. Hey, I have one right here. And you have a problem. Oh, man, I'm getting into... It might be kind of fun to, like, randomly roll a 6-sided die to tell you, like, which interchangeable part you have to use to solve the problem, right? If you're in the middle of a battle and you end up rolling your lower body, which is generally about your movement and what you can carry, that might be like, it's better to flee right now than it is to stand and fight. And there might be something to that. That just popped into my head. I'm going to drop that into a little notes section. Let me make a notes section. Oh wait, that's not how this is going to work. It's automated, so I'm going to... Sorry about my typing. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to what I was saying before. I'm on a bit of a tangent here. You have these interchangeable parts that make up your character. You're probably going to end up being more than the sum of your parts. But the thing I found fun last time was the fact that you had your head here, which included all of your knowledge and history and experience. Probably something to do with perception as well. But your values, not value, but values, exist in your heart, in your torso. So, like, what we might classically consider being the nature of the character is some interaction between those two parts. But those can be separated, and we were last time talking about a big bad, some sort of villain who is like a evil head that has all of his memories of being the evil villain, trying to reassemble his body, but occasionally ends up with a torso with good values. In the process, you're going to need a torso to move around, right? Well, the torso doesn't move around, but it does attach to the parts that you do use to move around. So there's something to be said there. I think that would be a lot of fun because we hit upon this thing near the end where we didn't want... am I covering that up? There we go. We didn't want the Intergalaxians to be able to die. They could just be blown apart, which I think is really... this kind of hits on a thing, right? Like, that's great for the imaginary comic and cartoon because you don't have any sort of you can have violence without death, which is what you want for cartoons, right? If that's what you're writing an 80s Saturday morning cartoon. I don't know what the ethics for making cartoons are these days, but back then you were doing it specifically to sell the toys, so it doesn't matter. So you would, yeah, in fact, it does matter. You would blow the characters apart and then have them grab new limbs, and then everyone would want to go out and buy those new limbs. So you would definitely have that happen. Anyways, I think that would be a lot of fun because you can still risk something. There's something fundamental about your character if your head and torso get separated. Like if you lose an arm, that's fine. You can pick up another one of I keep talking about like just picking up other limbs and things like that. I should specify, so far in my head, these are all intergalaxian limbs. There are people in this world. The vast majority of the people in the universe are not intergalaxians. They are various alien races and whatnot, and they don't have this interchangeability. And so, like every limb, most of the limbs, we haven't really decided on how that would work, but like most of the limbs are probably thousands of years old and belong to the original intergalaxians. We did talk at the end about how it might be fun to have, like, well, how do you get that repaired? Or what if someone has, like, somebody having a new sort of makeshift intergalaxian arm, which is kind of fun too. All right. Lots of ideas for stories that can come out in these various products, but no ideas for how we're going to actually do this as a game, right? So, very early on, I said that I wanted to kind of. This is a nostalgia trip. I'm enjoying playing around with in my own childhood here. And usually, what happens when I start designing from a very nostalgic point of view is that I dig into those games that I had when I was younger, like clearly early D&D or Tunnels and Trolls or Champions is another one that like I just really really enjoyed when I was younger. So like thinking the game on that level, I know I'm not going to end up doing it like that, but I would love if it had nods to it or looked a little bit like that. Like, maybe it has ability scores. We have, of course, 5 interchangeable parts here. Like, we could associate one with each one with a different ability score. I'm kind of doing that a little bit here, with, the things that I kind of want them to encompass. But maybe we don't want that to connect exactly. So I guess now is the time to start throwing out some ideas for how the game, how the mechanics might work. So I think I'm going to need like a little scratch piece of paper. So let me save this. Do I have any? Let's see. Nope. All right, we're going to make one. There we go. All right, so instead of having just rolling to see which limb solves a problem, that's very swordsy, very swords without master. Like instead of rolling for tone, you're rolling for which interchangeable part. Instead of doing that, it might be kind of nice to just have. Okay, so are you familiar? Okay, I'm talking to you as if you're sitting right here. Sound out in the chat if you're familiar with Torg, and maybe I'll go on. Or the Master Book games from West End. I'm trying to remember what are the other. I think they had like a bunch of tie-in ones. I know they had Tales from the Crypt because I got that one. Blood Shadows. I'm looking over there, which is where I got them. What do we got in the chat here? Pictures. Oh yeah, yeah. You just realize where I'm typing this. Yeah, I have an affinity for old technologies. So Torg, or any of these Master Book ones, Torg was a I'm going to say early '90s. I can't exactly remember when it came out. You can look it up. Torg. I think that's what it was called. I'm going to be well, anyways, Torg, it was like this. The world had all the, like, Earth had been either invaded from multiple dimensions or split up into so the world was carved up into various like, one's a fantasy realm and one's a pulp hero realm, and and you could go back and forth between all. The setting doesn't matter here. I'm sorry, I'm getting way off. The thing is that they had this deck of cards, and the cards had on them. There was a number of different things that the cards had on, but they had like maneuvers that you could do in combat, or they had, I think they had like narrative things that you could use. The idea was that as you were playing it, you would, oh wow, it's been so long since I played, I can't remember exactly how it all works, but you flip a card over and it would be out there for everyone to see, and they would get a bonus if they used, like, for instance, if you're in a fight, they might have a maneuver on there that was like, run, run. And so you would get like some kind of bonus or something if you did that. And it was a way to, it seemed to be, or at least the way it worked with my friends, is that it was a way to kind of break up a little bit of, I'm going to use the word monotony, of role-playing combat, right? There's a thing that sometimes happens in really, oh God, I really don't want to sound like I'm being negative here, but sometimes role-playing games, when two role-playing games love each other very much. No, okay, so sometimes in role-playing games, a battle is taking one figurine and putting them in base-to-base contact with another figurine, and then just rolling dice to reduce each other's numbers. And you just, round after round, that's all you're doing. There's no movement, there's no there's nothing really exciting happening except for that race, that number race that you're watching. So these would throw out these, like, if you did the trick maneuver, then you would get a bonus or something like that. Just things that weren't in the fiction telling you that you get a bonus for doing it, but just saying, hey, we would love if something different happened here, so here you go. If anyone who did this did this. Now, I might be mischaracterizing how this actually works, because, like I said, it's been a long time since I've played it. But this is the lesson that came down that I've carried with me over the years. So I'm sitting here with a blank screen. What am I talking about here? So what I'm thinking is having a die that, if you roll it, all right, hold on. Let's call it the inspiration die, right? Let's see here. And roll this with. Oh, I know that there's a way for me to do tables here, and I don't remember how it works. So I'm not going to do the table just yet. But I'm going to do it as a so use your head. Wait, I don't think sorry, I'm using that wrong. Not use your head, use your head. So the idea here is, if each of these limbs, these, I shouldn't say limbs, interchangeable parts, represents a capability or something, rolling this die would, like, I did not. I was going to look up a better term for lower body. We'll find it at some point. Wild. All right. So you would roll this when you roll the dice, and when maybe you're rolling. Well, let's just use a Powered by the Apocalypse example here. You're rolling 2d6 to do something, but if you obey you can ignore this die, but if you obey the result, maybe you get a little bonus. Maybe you get a little extra on your success or something like that. Something to kind of like, if you're fighting the bad guy and you have a laser sword arm, and then you roll like your lower body, and it's like, oh, now it's time to use your scorpion tail. Like, now it's time to maybe try and kick him with your tank tread rollerblades, that sort of thing. So this might be a way to kind of break up that monotony there. So I don't have a main mechanic yet. I just have this idea of something to kind of, I don't know, wild isn't right. That something else. I don't know what. Make a note here. We'll deal with that later. So we're gonna separate what you need to do by the interchangeables. Is there something that I'm trying to think if there's something that, like, something that you carry with you that doesn't necessarily rely on interchangeables. One thing we talked about last time was what might happen if you decide not to. You have the same connectors for the arms, the lower torso, and the head. Maybe you want to make a character that has a third arm on top of their torso instead of a head. Or maybe you want to make a character that has 3 heads on a torso. I really want to make a character that's 3 heads on a torso. That would be kind of fun. So what this says to me, and this might not be how it works out, but what this says to me is that I kind of have to make sure that each of the interchangeable parts can be applicable in a large situation, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean, if you have 3 heads, you just keep rolling your shouting during combat and see if you can. It does damage like everything else. I think it would be fun if, like, I want to have stuff that's has different effects based on what it is, but they have effects for any situation. So what kind of situations can they get into, I guess, is the question. All right. All right, so let's see here. About fighting, we said that. Sleuthing, we want to do some sort of mystery stuff. Mysteries. And again, if you got an idea for broad concept situations that you'd want to play in this game, feel free to shout out in the chat. Let's see here. Yeah, because investigations aren't separate from mysteries. There'll be some social things, but I don't want to just say social things. I want to be more. What kind of social things would you get into? Uh, oh, what? Okay. There's kind of a trope here that we could lean into. Um, if we're looking at these as like these lonesome space knights who have are starting to meet up with each other, right? In comic books, uh, the when that happens, almost always they fight. That's like the first thing they do. They're at odds with each other. And then they kind of come about and end up teaming up. That's like the classic Marvel team up situation. And it's not just comic books that do it. Like it goes like all of Robin Hood's gang at some point fight him when they first meet him. They have like some sort of struggle with him when they first meet him, and like it goes like it goes all the way back to Gilgamesh. So it doesn't. This is probably even further. This is like a very well tread thing. So I think one of the social things is just like fraught meeting. No, meeting. I have to write that all out so I know what's going on. Suggestion from the chat is a trial or like a justice system thing. Actually, that's not entirely too. I think that's kind of a. I don't know. I don't want them to, be wandering the universe, setting up an arbitrary thing, but a fun thing that could happen is that they just have to interact with all of these different cultures with these on these different planets with their own legal and justice systems. So that I think that actually is not too far off of a thing that might have to happen. So specifically, I think they have to like defend themselves. I am willy-nilly with the capitalization here. There's a thing we also want to do is we want to these are special beings, right? So we want to show off. We want in yeah, all right. I just had a moment where I was trying to decide if I was just going to talk about my games that I've designed. In Swords Without Master, there's the rogue phase, which is largely about saying, "Hey, I want to see you do this thing that your character, I think your character can do, or I want to see how your character deals with a thing that they normally wouldn't be able to, but they, I want to see how you defeat 1,000." An army of a 1,000 ice warriors or what have you, and it's fun to like just have a moment to just show off that your character can do these great things. And these are characters that are probably going to be able to do great things. That's sort of where they're heroic in that fashion, even if they aren't heroic in the virtuous fashion. Although probably if we're leaning into the comic book sort of thing. So anyways, show off special abilities, because that happens every, like, if you got a Saturday morning cartoon, that is just everyone's going to do their special ability at least once, right? We don't have to mimic that, but we want to have that possibility there. Chases are definitely going to be a thing that I'd want to see happen. These are all very action centered. I guess we're going to want something, especially once we get into the 90s and beyond. something into the romance area. Romances. Even if we don't have like a system specifically for it. I guess drawing again from Swords Without Master. Joe suggests in the chat, maybe show off how their parts create their identity as a twist to their special ability. Yeah, I like that. Yes. I think, nope, wrong way. There we go. Man, my typing is not good. Yeah, like you just like you get new arms or a new torso, and you take a moment to show off how that changes them. Yeah. I want. What was I thinking here? There was another type of situation that I was just. Like they're older than old, right? They're supposed to be filled. Well, I guess this kind of falls into the special abilities, but like knowing lore, some sort of like the discovery phase in Swords Without Master, where I kind of want them. Okay, so in Swords Without Master, you also have a discovery phase where you have the overplayer has the players generate things about the world, and I think that finding a way to make that happen here through the lens of the fact that these are all 10,000-year-old, warriors who've seen a lot of things and whatnot. It's energizing to have the players throw something at you that you can then grab onto, so you're not just, as you're running the game, it's not all on your shoulders. Let's see. Yes, potentially incredibly dramatic if you get a new head. Yes, this is that's the part that I'm going to leave it up to the players to decide what limb, which interchangeable they want to follow when their intergalaxian gets blown apart, if their intergalaxian gets blown apart. So, but yeah, I mean, it'd be fun to be like a torso that it's just a set of values that are drifting around, getting new heads, new weapon arms, and new lower body parts. One thing that this is actually something that I don't think I kind of articulated but didn't write down anywhere, but so maybe we'll put it here. I want there to be different reasons for why things connect. So let's talk about that. What I feel like there's let's call it all right. So let's go there. No, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. What happens if all your interchangeables, I'm going to have to make a macro for that word, are the same color? What happens? Or from the same set, right? Or so if we think about we talked last time thinking about how these toys might be sold originally. basing it a little bit on how the Muscles toys were sold, uh, you could have maybe two ways to buy it. One would be these packages of pre-assembled intergalaxians that maybe even had names written on the package, and maybe there was three of them. I was thinking of the intergalaxians like just basically being that tall, and so you'd get like three of them in a pack, and you'd buy that, and so those would be sort of strong attractors in the fiction, right? Like if you had a comic book, you already had a name for them. You already had a way that they looked, especially with all the limbs put together. So those would be like ones that you would probably be your lead cast, however you want to say that. But then the other way to get them would be these the space torpedoes, right? Like they're wow, we had a good name for them. I can't remember what it was. The astro torpedoes, whatever. Which just a little plastic thing, maybe with like a little hinges on the side. The kind of thing that would break almost right away. Very flimsy, but molded to look a little bit like a thing. And you opened it up, and it would just be filled with parts. Just filled with parts. No particular, randomly parts. So there'd be different ways, say as a kid when you're thinking about them, different ways to sort of decide how these go together, right? Like some of them, so let's talk about these different ways that they might go together. We talked about having the plastic molded in different colors. So different colors. There's definitely going to have been a glow-in-the-dark line. Maybe, you know what? This is a little before its time, so maybe we won't do this, but hypercolors, where if it got warm, it changed their colors. No, that seems... I don't remember any toys specifically. They made shirts that did that, so... So, you've got that sort of thing. Or... you had the set based on named character, right? But then you could also have sets that are themed, like these are clearly themed sets. Like maybe there's a bunch of them that just look like a left arm that looks like it's made out of water, Oh, that reminds me. Clear plastic, because I want ghost limbs. I want that kind of thing. But so this might be like I said, maybe one looks like a fountain coming out of your arm. And then you're like, as a kid, you'd be like, well, does that belong on somebody with the the mermaid lower torso? Or does it belong with the right arm that looks like a spouting fire? Like, could you assemble an elemental one? So I want that sort of... those synergies. That's the thing I'm looking for. That was the word I was looking for. Why am I... No, let's just say that's how it's spelled for now. It doesn't look right to me. It doesn't matter. So you... Then we can do ones that aren't visual, right? Like, we could say that or maybe they're visual, but it's a little bit more subtle. Like, there's a whole bunch of ones that are clockwork. Or I was thinking like we can name certain intergalaxian artisans of the past and say that, like this is the the body made entirely by so and so, the astro architect. I should have gone with spiral architect. Always sneak a Sabbath reference in if you can. That is game design 101. Yeah, so I think those synergies. So, I mean, I'm not landing on anything here. I'm just spitballing things out here, but I think there's like a lot of different ways to put these together. I want these all to have an effect so they feel real. Like I want them to have a mechanical effect so they feel real, but I also don't want them to be an overriding mechanical effect so you feel like, well, if I don't get all the green ones, I won't have a complete green suit and get that +6 bonus that happens if your entire body is made of green. So that's a thing to keep in mind as we're coming up with this early, like, what's happening? What are we rolling? What are we doing? How can we affect it in ways that make it more interesting without overwhelming it? So I'm going to do some concrete examples. I think I mentioned last time, if when in doubt, throw together an apocalypse world hack. So this should go in the litany of lies, but let's just put it down here. Why am I? All right, so uh-oh. What did I do? Oh, I know what I did. See if I did it right. This is me. There we go. Pulled it off. This is someone who's been using Linux for all of 4 months. All right. Where were we before Oh, I know what I was doing. Okay, so we're doing this apocalypse world hack, right? We're gonna say we're gonna have a roll. Let's do any kind of roll. Well, there we go. Just gonna make it a sample mechanic here. Roll to now. I mean, my favorite one is always no, roll to escape. Let's do that. All right, so you're gonna roll to escape something. Nope. Apologies. I'm gonna stop apologizing for things. All right, so 2d6 plus, if we're going to do escape, we're going to say 2d6 plus, let's just say lower body. This isn't necessarily how it's going to work, but we'll have a chart here. So what is it? I say when it was 6 or less is one of them. 7 to 9. 10 plus. All right, good. Now, what will often happen then in an apocalypse world situation is that these will like have costs or things that come along with it. Why I'm bringing this up and why I think that this is like a good sort of starting point is because we could say, all right, if you roll 6 or less, you're not going to escape. You're going to be stuck in this situation. Now, there's kind of a problem with that in that that is a moment of stasis, right? If you're in a fight and you're trying to escape and you fail that roll, then you're just kind of stuck in the fight. Like, or if you're in a cell and you're rolling to escape and you fail that roll, you're just stuck in the cell. There's nothing dynamic going on there. So, if this happens, then we could say GM, because we don't have a good name for the GM yet, which I will. I don't like the term. I don't like GM. I like to come up with funny names for them. GM chooses one. You are captured. In case you haven't been captured yet, you're just captured. You tried to escape, but you got captured. You accidentally reveal important info. Critical info. Critical secrets. Something else. Whatever. We don't have to fill all these in right now. But these are things that happen that just kind of change the course of things. The 7 to 9 is sort of the middling. You escape, but choose one. This isn't going to be not on a single roll, but let's just have it on here for now. Lose an interchangeable. Leave an ally in a difficult situation. Yeah, and some more. All right. And then on the 10 plus, you escape. Oh, well, a little Freudian there. You escape and choose one. And then things like your opponent is lost for days. Whatever. All right. So you got this sort of thing going, and now we can add like if you were using your lower body and your lower body happened to be made of clear plastic, then maybe you can add an extra option to that last one. And it's like, instead of that your opponent's lost for days, you escape in plain sight. You escape in plain sight and remain there to observe all that happens, right? Because you've got this invisible part of your body that helps you to escape. So it doesn't make you more effective probability wise, but it changes it has a very tangible effect on the fiction that falls out from what's happening. So this is kind of why I like to hang my early designs on a Apocalypse World frame, is that there's these different vectors for how you can interact with bonuses and things that can come out of the characters. All right. In this hypothetical, would body part add choices to moves then? Yeah, exactly. You would add in this hypothetical, that's exactly what it is. Like you would get. It may be the body part. It may be like the color of the plastic the body part's made out of, or whatever. They would just broaden the options that are available out there. Because part of what's fun about an Apocalypse World is the creative constraints that the options give you, and then being able to work your way around them. And this just gives you like a separate, different one. Okay, I said this early on, but this is a moment then, right? If you're the only one with, let's say if your lower body glows in the dark, right? You actually add an option to the bottom one, right? To 6 or less. And that option is I don't want that. Is wow, I'm having trouble. Right? You escape, but your foe can follow you. You glow in the dark, right? Like, or you leave glow in the dark footprints or slither marks, depending on what it is. That makes that part of the story about your character. It pulls the focus. Anyone else can escape and or can fail to escape and be captured or accidentally reveal critical secrets or whatever. But like you, because you have this glow in the dark lower body, you have this glow in the dark snake tail, let's say, because you have that. This story is going to go a just completely different way if you choose it, right? So, anyways, that's, I guess, the lesson there. That's why I want to focus on that. So, we're getting close to time here. Got a few more minutes. What else do I want to add? I mean, I feel like we're getting somewhere. We could just keep hanging this on some sort of apocalypse world frame. We could certainly turn almost all of these into a move of some sort, and work with it that way. I don't have a compelling reason not to, except that, like I said before, I really have a desire to frame these mechanics in a way that looks and feels more like the games of my youth. So I might have to sit on that before I make any kind of decision. But let me say this and then completely fail to live up to this promise. Next week, if I don't have something else in mind, we will start filling it out as if it were a PBTA, because I think it's time to start thinking about like the nitty gritty, like how is this going to play out? What's this going to look like at the table? And to do that, I need something to play with, right? Not that this isn't play. All things are play. But we've already invented a toy line, 2 cartoons, 2 comic book series, feature film that everyone keeps saying is going to happen but doesn't. I don't know about that one. But yeah. Well, I guess I want to thank you all for joining me. And I should do this. Okay, I keep forgetting. This is my thing. I need to now tell people where they can find. Like and subscribe, which is something I should have said much earlier in this whole thing. I forget. Last time someone corrected me on what the Twitch one was. I'm Eppidiah. Thank you for joining me. Eppidiah is spelled this way. You can find me on Twitter with @Eppidiah. You can go and see my games at www.dig1000holes.com. I'm going to just put some spaces in there so you can see what's going on. That is a website that I need to update. It doesn't even mention what I'm doing here. You can read my Sword and Sorcery fiction or several of my Sword and Sorcery games at worlds with an S without master singular.com. Note about the video framework you create for the position of the camera on your side feels very much like the audience is sitting beside you as you work, and I found that particularly charming. Well, thank you. It's purely accidental, but I'm glad it's working. Where else to find me? You can find my games anywhere where fine indie role-playing games are sold. I'm on Mastodon now. Eppidiah at dice.camp. I think that's how you tell people how to find someone on Mastodon. Yeah. So, once again, thank you for joining me. I'm going to now awkwardly search around for the controls on my thing so I can... There we go. Stop the recording. And we'll see you next week.